right now, I think in Edmonton, they're inching towards DEFCON 2. They lost 7-4 on home ice to Carolina last night. They were down 6-1 in that game. Today, Ty Ratty and Ryan Spooner are both on waivers. Now they traded Ryan Strome to get Spooner. So as Frank Saravelli sagely noted on Twitter, I love Frank. This is Frank's comment. The Oilers return. So they traded Eberle for Strome. They traded Strome for Spooner. Spooner's on waivers. Strome and Eberle are not. So now the Oilers are trying to clear cap space for Andre Sekera to come back. That's part of it. But it sounds like something's got to give there. This can't keep going on.
You wouldn't think so. The fan base in Edmonton has completely lost faith in the Oilers. I think you can really sense that if you read Terry Jones' column in the Edmonton Sun this morning. Peter Chiarelli's right in the crosshairs, and Pete's been a very good general manager in the National Hockey League. But if you look at a lot of the moves that he's made to try and take a young team that had the benefit of winning the lottery and getting Connor McDavid, virtually all the moves that he's made to try and make that happen, to surround McDavid with the right pieces and address what were perceived to be weaknesses of the team, fill holes, nothing has worked. The Lucic contract has been mostly disaster. Hall for Larson. Larson's just playing terrible hockey right now. And Hall, of course, won an MVP last year. You mentioned the Eberle for Strome trade.
The first round pick for
the Griffin Reinhart. The Griffin Reinhart. It was, and then even trading Kajula for Manning, and then Manning being a healthy scratch for a number of games. There's just about every button that he's pushed hasn't worked, and as I said on Edmonton radio this morning, the really concerning part about all of this is when you look at how this Oiler team is constructed and you see the gaping holes they've got beyond McDavid, Draisaitl, and Nugent-Hopkins up front. When you look at their blue line and see how bereft it is of top-end defensemen and probably lacking depth as well, you look at it and you say, where's the path to get better? So even if they do decide to make a regime change with the general manager, when the new this is what I think why Edmonton Oilers fans are upset, because for whether it's us on the outside looking in or Oilers fans or media looking at it, they're going, okay, so you bring the new GM in and you're in year 4 of the Connor McDavid life cycle here, and so what do you do? Okay, well, maybe we should trade our first-round pick. Maybe we should trade Jesse Puljujarvi. Do you really think that those moves are going to cure what ails the Edmonton Oilers? And, they went down this road. And listen, I didn't have a problem with them trading their first-round pick the year that they traded for Griffin Reinhart. The problem, as it turned out, was Reinhart wasn't the right bet.
And and the Islanders drafted Matt Barzal with it.
Well, exactly. And that 2015 draft was lights out. So you picture the Edmonton Oilers with Matthew Barzal or Thomas Chabot or Brock Besser or any number of guys, Kyle Connor, every hole that the Oilers have, one of those holes could be filled by whoever they could have taken with that draft pick. But we were all under the impression that they filled the bucket up with Nugent Hopkins and Eberle and Hall and McDavid and all these young guys, and now they had to turn this youthful group of prospects and young guys, and they had to take the next step, do the Dean Lombardi exercise where the bucket of prospects is filled up. Now you got to trade guys like Simmons and Jack Johnson and bring in, your Jeff Carters and your Mike Richards to try and put you over the top. And people thought the Oilers were kind of at that point where they had to take a step. But they bet wrong, obviously, on Griffin Reinhart, and that set them back enormously. So, I mean, the path forward is the one that and if I can't even imagine what Connor McDavid's thinking right now.
Well, that's
Yeah.
Like you've got the best player in the game, and he's doing everything he possibly can and then some. And yet inside he's got to feel like he's dying a little bit every game out. The Oilers are that bad because I can only imagine he looks at it and says, "Where's our path forward? How do we get better fast?" And I can only tell you, and it's a different time and place, but when he went to Erie as a 15-year-old, those first 2 years in Erie when the Erie Otters weren't very good, that ate him up. I wrote in my book, Hockey Confidential, there's a chapter on Connor McDavid in there, and I talked to him and his family about those first 2 years. And Dad Brian, a couple of times during the first and second year, would have to drive down to Erie just to talk Connor off the ledge because they weren't winning. And the funny thing is, nobody expected Erie to win just because Connor showed up, and nobody expected the Oilers to win a cup just because Connor showed up. But very rapidly over his time in the OHL, the Erie Otters, led by McDavid, became like a model franchise and a powerhouse.
Right.
And now the exact opposite is happening here, and so it's a bleak situation in Edmonton right now. Boy, oh boy.
Yeah, I mean, that's a strong player, but there's only so much he can do, especially, carrying a team at the NHL level. But what's so crazy about the West is they're still 3 points out of a playoff spot, but it's just not looking good. And a lot of fingers right now being pointed at Peter Chiarelli. Really appreciate you taking the time, Bobby.
Yeah, one quick note on that. That, and I mentioned this on Edmonton Radio this morning too. What a superficially low bar to set. I know everybody's saying we could still make the playoffs. We could still make the playoffs. But you look at the way the team is constructed, and you say, do you honestly believe that this team, as currently constructed, with even one or two tweaks between now and the trade deadline, do you honestly think that's a team that can contend for the Stanley Cup for the next number of years? And the answer, of course, is no way.